Assalamualaikum students. Myself, Dr. Shafiq, your tutor of Fundamental Supply Chain Management subject. Today, the topic which we are discussing is comprised of an introduction to warehouse management. As we discussed earlier, the basic function of supply chain management are warehousing, sourcing or procurement, logistics, and fleet. So before this, we discussed in detail about the sourcing, the procurement. Today, we are discussing about warehousing, and we'll try our best to cover the all main and necessary things which are required here in this topic, the basics at least. Here, some reading materials he recommended, and if someone wants to explore it further, you may follow these links and these books, articles referenced here, you may see. So our today's learning objectives are to introduce you about the role of the warehouses, to let you know how to handle the materials and its process, and the basic structure of the warehousing, and what type of the modules gonna use for its administration. Warehouses, जैसे ये लफ्ज हम प्रोनाउंस करते हैं तो हमारे जहन में क्या आता है? व्हाट, व्हाई, क्या होगा, इसका रोल क्या होगा, सप्लाई चेन में ये कहाँ पे आता होगा, वेयर हाउस का मिशन क्या होता है, विजन क्या है इसका, क्या प्रोसेसेस इन्वॉल्व होते होंगे वेयर हाउसिंग के अंदर, इन बेसिक्स चीजों को हमने यहाँ पे कवर करना है. वेयर हाउस बेसिकली एक बिल्डिंग होती है फॉर द स्टोरेज ऑफ गुड्स ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ इट्स ऑनर्स, उसको हम वेयर हाउस कहते हैं. A building for the storage of goods on the behalf of its owners, so that's called the warehouse. अब ये स्मॉल भी हो सकते हैं, लार्ज भी हो सकते हैं. आपके अपने घरों में भी बने हुए होंगे, अपने फार्म हाउस पे भी बने हुए होंगे, ठीक है, जहाँ पे आप ग्रेन्स को स्टोर करते हैं, गंदम स्टोर करते हैं, चावल स्टोर करते हैं, कपास स्टोर करते हैं. So these buildings called the warehouses. गवर्नमेंट की अगर आप बात करें, आपने अक्सर हाईवे के ऊपर देखा होगा ट्रैवल करते हुए, राइट लेफ्ट गल्ला गोदाम लिखे होते हैं, गल्ला गोदाम. वो गल्ला गोदाम या गल्ला गोदाम क्या है? Those are the warehouses जहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट फूड ग्रेन्स को स्टोर करती है, स्पेशली वीट को, गंदम को, चावल को, ताकि in case of any disaster or in case of any shortage उन चीजों को वो यूटिलाइज कर सके. So the store inventory for a period of time. warehouses में जो चीज जो इन्वेंट्री आप स्टोर करते हैं, that would be definitely for a particular time period. Doesn't mean it will be stored there for a long. At least that must be consumed और उसको आउट स्टोर किया जाएगा. So the inventory stored because of protection, because of the storage, and inventory may be turned over rapidly. Turned over means कि बड़ी जल्दी वो रिप्लेस भी होती है. आपने वेयर हाउस में रखी, उसको क्या कहते हैं, आउट हो गई, इनकी दोबारा आउट हो गई. फॉर एग्जांपल, आपके जो बड़े डिपार्टमेंटल स्टोर्स हैं लाइक मैक्रो, ठीक है, पाकिस्तान में एग्जांपल है द मेट्रो, ओके, टेस्को, लोटस, ठीक है. ऐसे स्टोर्स के ऊपर जो फास्ट मूविंग गुड्स हैं वो बड़ी रैपिडली टर्न होती रहती हैं, कंज्यूम होती रहती हैं. आज आपने 100 यूनिट्स रखे, उनमें से 5 बच गए, आपने उनको फिर रिप्लेस किया, कल वो 110 सेल हुए, ठीक है. तो इसी तरह से अगर आप मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है और आपका वेयर हाउस है, तो ऑफ कोर्स आपको डेली बेसिस के ऊपर ऑर्डर्स रिसीव हो रहे होते हैं और आपकी वो फिनिश गुड्स जो है, वो इन्वेंट्री जो है वो रिप्लेस हो रही होती है, आपके फैक्ट्री से आ रही होती है और उधर से दोबारा आप उसको आउट करके डिस्पैच कर रहे होते हैं टुवर्ड्स द डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स. सो इन्वेंट्री may be turned over rapidly. Company archives with retail and distribution centers. मुख्य जगहों पे आप इसको सेंड कर देते हैं. Here are shown some graphics of various storage facilities. Like the first one is timber. Timber storage yard. The second one is steel yard, जहाँ पे आप स्टील को स्टोर करते हैं. Third one is the containers yard, and the fourth one is the uranium storage compound. जब आप स्टोरेज की बात करते हैं, स्टोरेज doesn't mean only the covered building where you are going to store something. No, it can be an open space, it can be a yard as well, because it depends upon the inventory, upon the goods what you or we are gonna store. According to the requirement of that particular good, we have to decide what type of the store, what type of the warehouse we needed. For example, in 2010 emergency, flood emergency, there were a lot of the things, goods were gonna procured and distributed in the southern Punjab and interior Sindh. Initially, in the emergency response, those goods were, well, some warm cloth, food items, health and hygiene kits, and there was some, temporary shelters like tents. Okay. So these things were initially gonna provided, and right after a month or 2 months, the nature of the goods were changed. Now the water level was decreased. The people were gonna shift again to their homes for resettling. So in that phase, after the emergency rehabilitation phase, there was needed some very basic things like some livestock, some fodders for their livestock, and some other arrangements like towards their uh, living conditions into their houses, like quilts, like their uh, mattresses, beds. So for resettling them, the peoples to their places. So these things were going to happen there. And right after, in the development phase, rehabilitation phase, still in the rehabilitation phase, there was also construction of their houses, reconstruction of their houses, and various non-government organizations and even government organizations like PDMA, NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, Provincial Disaster Management Authority, and various non-government organizations called NGOs, INGOs. They were gonna perform such type of the activities. They were producing the houses to the residents and marginalized community, flooded prone community into various areas. So for that purpose, they procured first. They were procured the food items, health and hygiene items, say, and shelter items. For that, temporary shelters like tents and etc. So for that purpose, of course, they were required some covered area or covered warehouse, a building where they must should store the food items in an appropriate way without perishing them, without moisturizing them, considering the all environmental and cleanliness protocols. But right after in the rehabilitation phase, when they entered into the constructions, they procured steel yards, steel girders. They procured the doors. They procured the bamboos. Okay, they procured the bricks. So the storage of all these items in a sheltered area was very difficult. If the amount was in hundreds of thousands, was in bulk, so it was difficult to store there. So for that purpose, myself, we have changed our warehouse and our strategy. We moved our warehouse from that covered area to an open space where a covered area was also allocated us, and other open space was also allocated us. So the purpose was to adjust and to make it more convenient. If the some goods are need to store under the shelter, we were storing there, and other things we were put it in in the open space, and those were covered with a boundary. Okay, so again, these pictures gonna show you that some of the things goods required some different type of the storage, some different yard, some storage in the yard, some storage in the building, the shelters. So it's depend upon the nature of the good, what type of the good you are gonna store. And uranium storage, of course, it is never recommended to store under the shelter. it's always recommended to store into the open space. Where we have to store, the question is where we have to store to better match supply with the customer demand, which allow us to respond quickly to the customer demand. It also allow us for buffering against surge in the demand or supply. The first purpose is we have to store to meet our customer demand very timely. If we are not stored that good and we have to, call that product from the manufacturing unit, and after that they will process and they will produce and we will take that good towards the customer, it would take longer time and would not satisfy our customer very efficiently. So this one is one of the thing that the reason that why we have a warehouse is to respond quickly to our customer demand. And the other main reason of the warehouse or the storage is for buffering against the surge in the demand or supply. If there is any increase or decrease in the demand or supply to meet that some uncertain demand, we have to store some buffer stock, safety stock, which may utilize at the time of uncertainty in the demand and supply. For example, if we talk about the demand, because of some disaster, either man-made or any natural disaster, if the demand of that particular good or food items gonna high, you have to store. If you have to store that items, you would be more in ease and will fulfill your demand very easily. Such as you have been go through the fuel and oil shortages, like petrol shortages. At that time, what was gonna happen? The people, they were gonna store that the fuel, the diesel, the petrol, and many of the people, they were in the queue to get that, to fulfill their need, to get the some amount of the petrol and the diesel. So if the company was not stored the diesel or the fuel, and because of the load shedding, their plant would be in the danger and may shut down if they did not store the fuel in their warehouse, in their store. तो ये उसको डिस्टर्ब कर सकती है उनके साइकिल को, डिमांड और सप्लाई के. So for fulfilling such uncertain demands, we have to store. So these are the two basic reasons to fulfill the customer requirements and to meet uncertain demand and supply. Risk reduction and hedging, ये भी एक उसका स्टोरेज का या वेयरहाउसिंग का पर्पस है कि हम इससे अपने रिस्क को रिड्यूस करते हैं, हेजिंग्स को जो है ना कम करने के लिए. As we discussed the example of the government of Punjab and Pakistan, कि हमारे पास वो जो गल्ला गोदाम होते हैं, वो स्टोरेज एरियाज जो होते हैं, गवर्नमेंट को स्टोर करने की क्या जरूरत है? क्या गवर्नमेंट दस्तरखान चलाती है? क्या गवर्नमेंट का काम कोई फूड कंपनीज चलाना है? नहीं, बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू कीप price controlled and to keep smooth the demand and the supply. If some investors may purchase that particular good and may create an artificial demand and may increase the price like in the sugar scam. So for reducing or for curtailing such type of risk of artificial demand and supply, increase in the prices, the government have created their own storage and warehouses where they may have procured the goods, grains in the seasons, and after that they have to regulate the prices, demand and supplies through their warehouses. If somewhere is price is gonna raise and demand is gonna high, they may supply from their warehouses to that particular region, to district, to province, and then they may have to streamline their price, demand and supply elements. So such type of the risk reductions would be one of the purpose of the storage. Other is consolidation of the product to reduce the transportation cost and to improve the customer services. बाज़ आप अपनी प्रोडक्शंस को, अपनी ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट को रिड्यूस करने के लिए स्टोर करते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, Fuji fertilizer, Fatma fertilizer, okay, and there is another Angro fertilizers. For example, they have their operations plant, their manufacturing plants in the province Sindh, for example. And for the Balochistan, for KP, for the AJK and North Punjab, how you have to regulate, how you will have to make sustain the supply, कि क्या आप 2-2 या 10-10 बोरियां खरीद कर लाएंगे, कहाँ से, घोटकी से, सक्खर से या सादकाबाद से, ठीक है जी, गोट माची से. If you will procure that in a low volume and you will transport that product, that fertilizer from the goat machi towards Islamabad or towards AJK, of course it will cost you a lot. It will cost you a lot. And right after 2 days and 3 days, you will again generate the demand and you will again send the truck there to pick that bags of the fertilizers. And this repetitive exercise obviously will enhance your cost. So for saving such type of the cost, transportation cost, आप क्या करते हैं, आप कहते हैं जी मुझे एक ट्रेलर ही भेज दें, कंटेनर ही भेज दें, 1000 बैग्स, 2000 बैग्स. या आप कहते हैं जी कंजम्पशन बहुत ज़्यादा है, आप उसके एक रेल कार्गो ही मंगवा लेते हैं. So such type of the decisions would be for saving the transportation cost as well. उसको फिर आप क्या करते हैं, at a time, yes, of course it cannot be consumed, तो आप उसको store कर लेते हैं एक warehouse के अंदर, and then you have to spend according to your demand. Mixing of the product to distribute it across several loads. somehow आप मुख्तलिफ प्रोडक्ट्स को किसी एक पॉइंट के ऊपर असेंबल करते हैं, मिक्स करते हैं और एक न्यू प्रोडक्ट क्रिएट करते हैं, जनरेट करते हैं और फिर उसको मुख्तलिफ बैगेजेस में, पार्सल्स में, मुख्तलिफ क्या कहते हैं, बैग्स में पैकिंग करते हैं और फिर उसको आगे डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन पॉइंट तक भेजते हैं. So for conducting this whole exercise, of course you need some space, and that space would call a warehouse. And for that purpose, you may have to make the store different products and inventory. To provide value added processing, आप उसके अंदर की वैल्यू ऐड करते हैं, उसकी पैकेजिंग को, उसकी असेंबली लाइन को, उसकी क्वालिटी चेक्स को, उसकी प्रोडक्ट को अल्टर करते हैं, उसके अंदर भी ग्रीन कार्गो लाते हैं, उसके अंदर भी प्रोसेसिंग के अंदर स्टेरिलाइजेशन करते हैं, हेल्थ केयर करते हैं, कोई और प्रोसेस करते हैं उसके अंदर. दूध से आप फर्ज किया, आई एम टेकिंग द एग्जांपल, गिविंग यू द एग्जांपल, कि आप मिल्क कलेक्ट करके लाते हैं एक जगह पे सेंटर के ऊपर, फिर उससे आप उसकी जो है ना कुछ क्रीम अलहदा से करते हैं, फिर उसका दूध अलहदा से करते हैं, फिर उसको फर्दर प्रोसेस करके उसकी अगर कोई चीज़ आप कोई और बाई प्रोडक्ट्स बना के और फिर वहाँ से उस पॉइंट से आप उनको आगे फर्दर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन पॉइंट्स तक भेजते हैं. तो ऑफ कोर्स for that purpose you would be storing and there would require a warehouse. Reverse logistics to collect goods for recycling. Reverse logistics is a very beautiful concept. Reverse logistics is कि आपने कोई चीज किसी को सेल की है, सेलिंग के बाद उसने वो यूटिलाइज की है एंड आफ्टर समहाउ वो चीज डिटोरिएट हो गई है, एक्सपायर हो गई है, खत्म हो गई है, and now you are gonna take that back towards your warehouse. आप उसको रिसाइकिल करते हैं, उसको फिर रिकंडीशंस करके दोबारा उसको यूटिलाइज करते हैं, रिप्रोड्यूस करते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, you may take here the example of the beverages. कि आपको बोटल्स आती हैं मुख्तलिफ शॉप्स के ऊपर, वहाँ पे वो यूटिलाइज हो जाती हैं, फिर वो एम्प्टी जो होती हैं वो उनको दोबारा से जो है वहाँ रिकलेक्ट करते हैं, कंपनीज में जाती हैं, वहाँ पे वो दोबारा वॉश होके दोबारा रिफिल होती है. From customer to factory is called the reverse logistics. ठीक है, और उसको the purpose is to recycle that product, recycle, reduce and reuse. ठीक है जी. What are the benefits of a warehouse? We are going to discuss some basics benefits of the warehouse, which are climatic control. warehouse से आप climatic control कर लेते हैं. कैसे? बारिश आई, आपने अगर आइटम्स को स्टोर किया हुआ है शेल्टर के अंदर, आप उनको डिटोरिएट करने से बचा सकते हैं, खराब होने से बचा सकते हैं, पेरिश होने से उनको बचा सकते हैं. आपके पास 50 डिग्री है नॉर्मल टेम्परेचर, बट दैट प्रोडक्ट रिक्वायर्ड द 20 और 30 डिग्री. आप उस वेयर हाउस के अंदर उसको एसीज लगा के आप उसका टेम्परेचर मेंटेन कर सकते हैं. ठीक है जी. और अगर आपको वो माइनस में चाहिए, ऑफ कोर्स यू मे स्टोर दैट इनटू द फ्रीजर एज वेल. कोल्ड स्टोरेज आप उसको प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं. स्पेशली फॉर द drugs, it is more complicated and it is more sensitive uh, uh, in terms of the environment and the climate. कि उनको आप एक specific climate के अंदर रखना होता है. प्रोडक्ट्स को, उन ड्रग्स को। पिछले दिनों डिस्कशन चल रही थी रिगार्डिंग द कोविड वैक्सीन्स. So the producers COVID vaccine, they said that it would be not easy to bring that to the Pakistan, because the developed countries first they will use by themselves, and after that they will give the chance to the developing countries like Pakistan. And if they will give the chance, still there is another problem, that is about transportation and logistics. कि उसकी logistics कैसे की जाएगी, इसकी logistics supply chain there, that vaccines required, for example, -10 or -20 degree climate. अगर वो उससे 0 पे या 5 पे आप उसको लेके आते हैं, 3 पे लेके आते हैं, तो वो खराब हो जाएगी, एक्सपायर हो जाएगी. तो उसके लिए वो क्लाइमेट ही इतना मतलब कि कोल्ड चाहिए. And unfortunately, our climate is very harsh. Pakistan climate is very harsh. Usually we have mostly areas hot in the summer, more than 40, 45, up to the 48, 50, and in the winter somehow up to the upper side there would be in the minus, but still in the Punjab and Sindh and some areas of KP and Balochistan, there is a still in the 5, 10, 15 temperature. तो इस क्लाइमेट को कंट्रोल करने के लिए अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारे पास कोई ऐसी आर्टिफिशियल फैसिलिटी नहीं है कि जहाँ पे हम उसको -10, -20 की क्लाइमेट प्रोवाइड कर सकें. So this one is also a logistics and warehousing storage problem for us. According to the United Nations report, in Pakistan, more than 60% drugs gonna perished, gonna expired because of poor storage, poor climate controls. More than 60-70%. So you can imagine how much potential is in this site. कि हम इसके अंदर कितने poor हैं और how much waste we can control by improving ourselves. Climate control एक benefit है, containment is the benefit, security is the benefit, secrecy is the benefit, and improved working conditions are also the benefits of warehouses. If you establish at your organization, your company, at your site, तो ये उसके मुख्तलिफ benefits हैं. ठीक हो गया? So for today, this is end of this lecture, and from the next week we will start it again. From here we left, or is sorry, this was disconnected. Okay. तो आज तक के हम यहीं पे इसको स्टॉप करते हैं. नेक्स्ट लेक्चर हम यहीं से दोबारा से स्टार्ट करेंगे, और आप लोगों से के लिए एक अनाउंसमेंट है कि कमिंग लेक्चर में आप लोगों का क्विज होगा, सो बी प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर दैट क्विज. ओके जी, थैंक यू, अल्लाह हाफिज.